Hi there guys. I was recently down to my local trap and ski club and one of the members there kindly gave me some odds and ends of reloading components that was surplus to his requirements, and I figured it might be kind of interesting to some of you to have a look at them. So if this sort of thing interests you, hang around. If not, well, you might want to go watch a different video. So these are some primed hulls for the most part. There's a couple of unprimed ones, but primed hulls, and with the price of shotgun primers nowadays, primed hulls is kind of a extra bonus. And of course you can see these are brand new unfired tubes. They haven't been crimped or anything like that. So this one here is a CIL Canuck paper base wad style of hull. If you are a little bit older, you might recognize these from the shells that Canadian Tire used to sell back in the 1970s and probably into the early 1980s. You would get a 20 round box of these. These particular hulls loaded for kind of a cheaper promotional type shell. And there's not an enormous quantity of any of these hulls, but there are a few, and they were free, so hard to complain about that. There is load data with these hulls in some of the older books. The primers that are in these are the old CIL type primer. They're the same diameter as a 209 Winchester, but they're a little bit shallower. So I'm not too worried about those primers. They'll work just fine even though they are older. All right, moving on to the next kind of hulls I got. Here we have some IVI Imperial Hulls. So let's see if we can get a look at that. These are a little tarnished, of course. These are probably, what, 45 years old, something like that, I would guess. Super high brass. These are an interesting hull. They are paper base wad once again. They have that CIL type primer in them. This is actual real brass. These ones here that I showed you earlier are actually a copper plated steel head. These are a high brass shell, and they have a steel liner inside the brass. So if you were to take a magnet, it will stick down here at the very bottom of the hull, but it won't stick up at the top because there's an actual steel cup inside these. So these are quite a very strong hull. So basically there's a sandwich inside there. There's the paper base wad, there's the steel cup, and then there's the brass over the top of that. So a very, very strong hull. And I got, well, we didn't get a super large quantity of any of this stuff, but there's a few. And it is pretty cool to have some of these that have never been loaded before. These might make a good hull to put perhaps slugs in, since they can be roll crimped nicely. Got some more Canadian-made hulls here. These are more IVI Imperial type hulls, and once again a high base wad. These are essentially the same kind of hull as the purple ones. There's not really a lot of difference between these other than the fact that these are 2 3/4 inch and these are 3 inch. So basically an identical hull other than the length and the color. So kind of cool to have some of those brand new 3 inch hulls. I did mention earlier these other ones. These are 2 3/4 inch as well, and of course 12 gauge. A few other odds and ends of 12 gauge hulls. We have some Fiocchi, and these are also a 3 inch hull. Factory primed. A little bit of fuzz in there. It looks like somebody was trying to skive these, or whatever you call it, thin them out at the end. This one seems thicker. This one looks like they made an attempt to thin the end out. Got a little bit bird. Anyway, only 4 of those things. Let's see, what else do we have in the way of 12 gauge hulls? There are a handful of these Challenger Cheddite type ones, primed. No big excitement there. And there are a random handful of other hulls, which there's only 1 or 2 of each. You got these, it's a brand that is not familiar to me. Looks like it's perhaps Italian. Anyway, primed once again. Looks like a 2 3/4 inch. Another similar looking hull, but without the same head stamp. And, you know, looks like another Cheddite Challenger type hull, yep. And yeah, another one. Some more of these Fiocchi hulls, primed. Not a lot of use for only a handful of those. A singular AA Winchester that's never been loaded. It's kind of cool to see one of those that's survived this long without being used. All right, let's move on to, there's a handful of 20 gauge hulls here. And these look to me like they are Fiocchi, but they could be Cheddite perhaps. Let me know if you know for sure. I'm not entirely sure which. The Fiocchi and the Cheddites look so similar to me. I'm not sure which is which. Anyway, those are kind of interesting. See through. I didn't bring my measuring apparatus with me to see whether these are 2 3/4 or 3 inch. They look a little longer, but no, those are 2 3/4. So just a handful of those. Be kind of cool to put perhaps some buckshot in because you can look through the hull and see what's loaded in them. Next up, we have some 28 gauge. And once again, European style hull. Let me know if you think these are Challenger, Cheddite type, or if they're Fiocchi, or if there's some other European type of hull. But just a tube type hull with a plastic base wad and primed. Anyway, I got a few more hulls. I'm just going to go grab those. I'll be right back. All right, let's make some room here. I've got a partial bag of these active plastic 20 gauge shells. I have loaded these in the past. Active hulls used to be kind of a bigger deal. They stopped making them, of course, many years ago, but they were pretty common at one point in time. A lot of guys like these for waterfowl hunting because they didn't get rusty. So they're generally described as being an all plastic hull, which is not really true. There is actually some metal embedded in the ring in here. See those dots there? Well, behind that there's like a metal washer, but they are, the bulk of them is plastic. And these are two-piece hull. The tube and the base are bonded together. You can see where there's a seam in them there. These semi-autos and pump actions aren't real kind to these. They tend to take peelings out of the rims, but they have a lot of capacity. So they were kind of a popular shell for steel at one time. Anyway, here's I don't know how many's in that bag. I guess there would have been 100 in there to start with. No, sorry. Oh yes, 100 per bag. That doesn't look like 100 to me, but it's got to be at least 50 perhaps. So hey, and the price was right, it was free, so can't argue with that. Here's some survivors from many moons ago. These are Imperial 3-inch paper hulls. So not something you're going to see every day of the week nowadays, right? It's that kind of a purple color that Imperial of Canada, IVI, Imperial Dominion used. So a 3-inch paper hull, paper base wad with the original primer in it. So that's pretty cool. Hard to find 3-inch 410 hulls of any type nowadays. So there's 50 of those, and there's a few extra odds and ends of those paper ones. And there was another bunch of, these are the plastic tubed ones. They're basically the evolution away from that paper hull. These are Imperial 3-inch plastic tube hull. So same kind of a deal. I guess I got about 60 of those. Just kind of put them in a box to keep them tidied up. And all of this stuff, with the exception of of those actives kind of came all jumbled in one big bag. So anyway, if you find this stuff interesting, leave me a comment. If you have anything to say about anything I got wrong here, let me know. And if you find this interesting, perhaps I will do another video on the rather large selection of shotgun wads that came with this stuff. If there's any interest in me going through those, I can do that as well. Anyway, thanks for hanging around for this show and tell.